Made $120 basically in 3.5 hours. Good shit, good shit. Made money. Also drank with one of my customers. They invited me out to their house. They're like, "Yo, you seem really cool." I'm like, "I am pretty cool." But they're like, "Yo, do you want to come drink with us? Have like a drink at my place?" I'm like, "Yo, sure thing." So basically, hung out with some random strangers who were like brother and sister who were like in their 40s or whatever. So like some graying haired adults or whatever. I shared a drink with them in their garage. Basically, just had a conversation for about an hour about my life and what I've been through and about ethics and atheism and stuff like that and like antinatalism, you know. Well, they had a conversation about like philosophy and stuff. And they're just like kind of like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'm like, "Activism, what's that?" And I'm like, well, you know, it's just kind of getting out there and trying to like spread your beliefs that you believe in. And like, "What do you believe in?" I'm like, "Blah, blah, blah." And so I explained to them. Yeah, it was a good conversation, you know, got a free shot. They actually tipped me, well, they tipped me $20, and then tipped me another $20 to bring the sister home after I had a drink with them. So basically, they tipped me $40 total plus the fare, which was probably like 15. So I got like $50 from these guys. It was good shit. And a conversation plus a shot. So it was a fun time. And I also educated people a little bit on atheism and antinatalism. Not very much, but a little bit. I mean, it wasn't really a deep conversation. It was very surface level, but we basically just mentioned the concept to them essentially a little bit. They're more interested in why I was an atheist than antinatalism. But I was like, I'm willing to entertain more conversation as long as I'm being paid. So, hell. So, you know, it's a beneficial thing. I got money and made people more comfortable with the atheist community. So, perks. I'm doing the Lord's work. Doing the Lord. They were like, "Why are you so comfortable? Like, randomly going to some stranger's house at like 1 in the morning to drink with them. Like, isn't that kind of sketchy?" And I'm like, "You don't understand." I'm like, "Well, you know, there's many reasons for that. One, I do a lot of like activism, so I'm talking to a lot of people, you know, and like two, I'm a philosophy major, so like people like do a lot of social. I believe in like social contract and stuff. Like people generally don't like hurt each other if they agree not to hurt each other. You know, it's just kind of like I don't think you guys are bad people, and it's very unlikely that you like are or anybody really is like an encounter as a bad person. It's statistical anomalies, so to speak." And they're like, "Oh yeah, no, I mean like I've experienced bad things, blah, blah, blah." And you know, it was. I forgot where I was going with that, but yeah, moral story is yeah. There's like, "Why are you so comfortable?" Yeah, they were like, "Why are you so comfortable?" You know, like in my mind, you're like, "It's because I want to hack people to death." I'm like, "I'm the most dangerous person I know." I didn't say that, but in my mind, I'm like, "I'm the most dangerous person I know." But you know, when it comes down to it, so it's just kind of like, and there's no reason to fear two middle-aged people that statistically were just on my Uber app. So it's like if they're gonna kill me, that's not a very good plan to do so. I mean, if you're in a last person saw me on my Uber app, so just track you right to your location pretty easily. So I'm like, yeah, it's unlikely that they were gonna hurt me, and they didn't. So got a free drink. Conversation. So yeah, they were interested in why I was such a chill lad, cool, drinking with complete strangers in the middle of the night at their home, and I'm just like, "Yo, I'm a fucking mad lad." Hi, Marco. Meow. Look at this fatty. Didn't mean to scare you, coughing. It's cold. E. E pluribus unum. Together we are strong, brothers. Or take a hit with me. Praise be. That's not pleasant sounding cough. Yeah, it's not. Coughing is usually not very pleasant. But it do be. I was Uber driving tonight, and talked to antinatalism with some of my people that I was Uber driving. Drank with them at their house. Basically, I drove a bunch of people, and then they were like, "Yo, you should totally drink with us." And I'm like, "Would maybe do that off the clock." And then they're like, "Yo, actually, can you drive my sister to her house?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can do that." So basically, I clocked out of the Uber app and just used Google Maps to drive them to their house. And then they were like, "Yo, are you sure you don't want to drink with us?" I'm like, "You know what? Fuck it." So I basically just drank with some middle-aged like brother and sister in their 40s, like in their garage at like 1:30 at night, and basically just a conversation about my life and antinatalism and atheism and stuff like that. So it was a pretty interesting time. It was just drank with them for an hour and smoked with them and just kind of talked about life and antinatalism and stuff. So it was pretty cool. But yeah, moral of the story is I'm out here doing work while doing ethical work. So, or it's the vice versa. I mean, I'm doing work and at the same time I'm doing ethical work. Right? Yeah. So the grind, it never stops. Fun story for today. I have shad lungs, my dude. Coughing. I'm used to it. At this point, I just cough all the time. Iron lungs, man. It's like probably like calluses in there. Just kidding, I'm not. Hopefully not, but yeah, I can fucking hold my breath for like basically 2 minutes. So regardless of me being a smoker, I still have great lung capacity. So cough, cough, cough. But if I like enunciated my coughs, it would like be like less intense. Was not. It still sucked. Last hit. I'm going inside. I'm gonna watch some videos as usual. And I'll game and watch some videos. Unintelligent design, indeed. Eat. Yeah, man. This year alone, I've smoked like probably like 150, maybe 175 grams easily. I guess I ordered probably one of these in November, December of last year, and ordered another one probably like of these earlier this year. So 100 grams of Delta 8. There's only like fucking 20 grams left. So basically, I've smoked by the end of this year. I'll probably finish this and I'll smoke fucking 200 grams. So yeah, good shit. Because I live in Wisconsin, my boy. Delta 9 is illegal here. Well, it was illegal, now it's decriminalized, so it's still not legalized, but it's not like illegal. It's just not legalized, so you can't buy Delta 9 without like going to illegal markets, which are more expensive. Or going to Michigan. So I prefer just having that weak ass shit, but it's really cheap still. But it's weak. It's weak. I have to smoke so much of it just to get high. And it also hurts your lungs like a bitch. Delta 8 hurts like a bitch. I don't know why. That shit stings. So this is a smooth hit because this is actual THC right here. This is a random cart that, as I'm an Uber driver, one of my customers that I was driving accidentally left his dab pen in my car. And so I was just like, oh, cool. So I basically just got a free dab pen. But, yay. Dropped it from misdemeanor. Yeah, they do that a lot. They don't really charge people for fucking marijuana very often. It's just kind of a. We in Wisconsin, we acknowledge with marijuana as kind of like just being like, it's not a crime. It's not a crime. It's not worth. We don't encourage it, hence why it's illegal. But we don't want people to go to jail for it either, because we don't really think it's a crime to smoke weed in Wisconsin. It's kind of, most people in Wisconsin are big Joe. Still 480. Yeah, we're still gonna try to get you to get your money out of it. Other than getting high, my dude, not a whole lot. I guess I earned $120 in 3.5 hours while doing Uber driving today, and I also got a drink with one of my customers. So it was a good night. We talked about antinatalism and veganism a little bit, and like atheism and like why I became an atheist and my backstory and stuff. So it was a good night. Basically, just kind of like there's this brother and sister, and they were just kind of like, "Yo, you should come drink with us." And I'm like, "You seem like really chill." And I'm like, "I'm cool with that." So I basically at like 1:30 in the morning just went to this random rich dude's nice ass house and just started drinking with him and his sister and smoking my vape, I guess, in his garage. And we started talking about my backstory, about my life, and basically kind of talking about my activism. And he was like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "Explain activism." He's like, "Well, what do you do?" And I'm like, "Please don't be offended." And then I explained antinatalism to him really quickly, and that I'm also a vegan activist, but he I guess knew what that is. So, yeah, basically we just had a conversation about. He's like, "How did you become like anti-analyst activist?" I'd be like, "Do you want the short version, or long version?" I use like long version. So I basically explained to him how I became an atheist and all that, and they were like, "Oh, what?" Like, explain to me atheism. So basically, had a deep conversation about atheism and antinatalism today, and drank with a random customer. So it was a good night. So what's good? The conversations were good, and also they tipped me $40. So they tipped me $40, gave me a shot, and had a conversation to me about antinatalism. So all in the span of an hour. And afterwards, I went and picked up a couple other people, and they gave me like $10 each, basically. So I mean, I made good money. So made good money tonight because I am the Rizzler. People love me. I have great conversations, great music. Bing bang boom. I just hate being alive. Your food is almost empty, my boy. Marcos thinks loud. No. What stands UG's most pleasurable? I don't really know. I personally like Northern Lights.
Testing. I'm not sure if this is working. Let me see. Testing 1, 2. There we go. It's working. Cool. Northern Lights is the best strain in my opinion. It's an indica. It makes you sleepy and euphoric, and it tastes good. Marco will sacrifice you to the meal. Just kidding. No cat sacrifices will happen today. Tomorrow, though, no guarantees. Got ourselves instant noodles. No eggs, actually. The eggs just in the picture. It does taste really good if you have eggs, but now I can't have it because I only purchase vegan products. So, big sad. But at the same time, we got original veggie crumble boga. And that will make it very delicious and savory. So, yum yum. Compensation. It'll be a good find meal. Shut up, Marco. No one asked. Can't speak. Meh. Whatever the fuck that means. You know what? Feeling fucking. No, we might do something. of educational value this stream. I was gonna play music and say, "Ah, fuck it, we'll just get copyright strike," but I don't want to do that. Actually, we're gonna potentially listen to educational content or something, and I don't want the video getting smited just because I decided to listen to music for 5 minutes. These things are so cool. They're like giant knives for like cutting meat or whatever you want. But I personally use it just to open up the little packages and stuff like that. It's more convenient. And it's like, this is my utensil thingy. But it also makes me be like, if I was a serial killer, I'd just chop off people's fingers. Just kidding. I would never do that. Luckily for the populace, I'm a good human being. Marco, get back here, you adorable little creature. We could use it to cut off your little paw. I'm just kidding, I'm not going to do that. My psychopathic brain. You haven't scratched Luna in a while, but your claws are sharp as fuck right now. Could trim them. Just so if you do attack the dog, you don't hurt him. But I don't really feel like it. Plus, if you have sharp claws, you can catch birds easier, which is the right thing to do as an ethicist. Go and be free. Kill things in the name of the Lord. He just meows. Yeah, it's a little roar of terror. Just imagine that's his war cry as he goes outside to. Yeah, he's walking towards the door. They go slay things. Marco. Yeah? Yeah, go get him. Remember, y'all, one thing that's good about human beings is we can actually end all life on Earth. We are intelligent beings. That's about it. Other than that, we just kind of suck ass. Your neighbor probably sucks ass. Maybe even literally. He might literally suck ass. And if he does, probably has parasites, so you should probably not fuck your ass-sucking neighbor. Unless you already are, which then maybe you also have parasites. I mean, that's just like a... I mean, not all people that eat ass like have parasites. I mean, if you eat ass and don't have parasites, congratulations. Never eaten that. What we're talking about? Because I'm intellectual. Because I'm high. And honestly, I don't feel like having an intellectual conversation at the moment. I just feel like fucking about as I make food. Yeah. When it comes down to it, what type of conversations? Because we will talk some philosophy or whatever bullshit you want to call it, value ethics. I don't fucking know. A little bit. I don't know what subject I want to talk about though. Huh. It's worth conversing on, guys. Maybe nah. Hmm. Testing 1, 2. Cool, my mic's still working. Grand. Best cooking show? Fuck yeah. Now you drain the water. Because you don't need any of that. I mean, if you want to keep the water more soupy, you can, but I fucking don't. It just dilutes the flavor. And that's no bueno. You just, a little bit of water. You put the skillet in with the noodles. You take your flavor packets. Bang, bang, boom. These things are really nice. Like, this is like, normal ramen is like really cheap, This is like fancy ramen. It's like a big old bulk ramen package thing, but it costs like $20. But damn, does it taste fucking great. It's good stuff. It's boom poo. I don't know what the fuck. It just means seasoning in like whatever fucking language. Why do you listen to cooking music while you cook? Because I don't want the video to get smited by the YouTube overlords for playing any music that's copyright strike viable. You know what I mean? And I guess I could play like the generic lo-fi that they have in StreamYard, but I don't want to do that, man. I mean, I could if you all want to listen to generic StreamYard music. We could. I'm almost done cooking. Yeah. There we go. I got one of those packets in. No, we're not gonna play the music. We're the silent. We're like a mime. We're like a mime cooking. Just imagine like I don't even have food, but I'm just like arms moving. In fact, close your eyes. We don't even need the visuals. We can just like imagine me cooking, but as a mime in like full mime gear, like this. Just pretending to mime cooking instead of actually cooking. Maybe we'll do that someday. I'll draw on a crowd. A full mime. I'll be in my new channel. Just you get like a whole crew of people and call it Ethel Mime and just like pretend act out scenes of Frankenstein, different Ethelist content. Like, like, I'm just kidding. It'd be fucking stupid. But it would be still more productive than half the content that goes on in the world, I guess. Sadly, that would be still more productive. Ah, delicioso. Oui, oui, monsieur. Okay. Very good. Yeah, very good. Spicy. Put some Diablo sauce from Taco Bell in there on the beef skillet. Cook like vegan beef skillet stuff. So it's extra spicy. Like the spice, heat. Maybe be like, why aren't you a negative utilitarian? Isn't spiciness just triggering pain receptors? And isn't that like opposite of your? I'm like, I'm also a masochist. So physical pain just translates into psychological pain relief / pleasure. So when it comes down to it, it's okay. Spicy foods be delicioso. We're gonna go to donotgod.com and then we're gonna find something from there. Well. What do we have here? Okay, but we gotta think of a topic. Think of a fucking topic. Gary doesn't have very much content on pro-mortalism. He's just kind of like, oh, I'm not a pro-mortalist. And I'm like, I know, but yes, you kind of are in a way, but you kind of aren't. Any negative utilitarianism isn't at the same time. But, let's see. Not pro-mortalism, not negative utilitarianism. Paganism, though. Do you have any topics? Throw them out there if you think of anything you want. If you can think of Gary talking about things you want to hear, amend them and my thoughts, or just vibe together, watch content. Depends on the content. If I have comments, I'll make comments. If I don't have comments, then I may as well listen with y'all and just jive and vibe. Why talk if there's nothing to say? But I usually have things to say. As you can tell, I'm just kind of talking right now. That's because I'm constantly chitter chattering in my brain, bro. Hmm.
little mechanisms, little triggery devices, little reflexes, sub reflexes, whatever you want to call them, idea jerks. I have idea jerks. Oh, yes. Happenings, reactions. Frankly, that's all I have is reactions. Okay,
Same, my
so
dude.
that's what you're going to get is my reactions. So I can't do anything else but react,
Same.
unfortunately. But anyway, I react in a context, and that's the context is I have acquired some little mechanisms, little triggery devices, little reflexes, sub reflexes, whatever you want to call them, idea jerks. I have idea jerks, like a knee jerk, and they jerk, create this moment. Yeah, hilarious. What a pile of shit. Anyway, that's what. Yeah, that's all it's made out of. Jerky reflexes. Ew. It's a bug planet. All of that crap. Ugh. Anyway, yeah, on with the great show. Yeah, shit, the shittiest show in the universe. But anyway,
I
not
could, but
many
that just seems
videos, so I'll
tedious
play the
to me.
video and point out that I made a
And
video and it's about this kind of stuff.
all of us do the
So
same
one of
things
the
in a way.
points
We just
was
kind of
is just
consume,
the fact is
you
all this
produce.
brain can
When
do
we're
is
just pointing out how
manufacture
they do in different
response
ways,
to the
but
world, and it can understand that when it responds to the world,
mammals
the
just have
world is
higher
going to
functions,
respond
so they
back
can
because it's a knee jerk
feel
to
more
like a
in
brain
depth.
jerk.
But
It's just going
everything
to
suffers to some
brain
extent
jerk
or
back
another.
at me,
They have aversive
and
responses.
I can know ahead of time, pretty predictable, what kind of jerks I'm going to
What
get.
things that don't, or things that lack
And
a nervous
do
system
I
completely,
wish
like
or don't
plants
I wish to
and
challenge
objects.
their bishop? It's my chess strategy. Do I want to challenge, threaten their bishop, or is that going to get me in trouble and the queen will smite me? I have to play a strategy. Yeah, and who wants to play that? I don't want to play that, so I have to play that whether I want to or not, and can't play it. Yeah, I'm just trying to be a fake person, but I just can't do it. Okay, but I'll try harder. Anyway, to be a completely inhibited, strategic, scheming human. Okay, so instead of being a real one, I'll just be a scheming one. Ugh, so degrading. Anyway, yeah. So in this video, I'm going to say some bold things like "fuck you," I don't give a damn about you, and it's sort of the truth. If the universe had a library, okay, and we're going to put books in the library, first I'd say, why are we bothering? None of these stories are worth writing or reading. But if we're going to put a book in, if we have to put a book in, okay, you just put my book in. Because all your books are stupid, frankly. Yeah, I don't get you. Your stories aren't, frankly, they're not interesting. They're not compelling. You really are a bunch of jerks. You're all flawed characters. None of you come off pristine. There's no heroes, blah, 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 blah. There's just no book worth putting on the shelf. And if you have to put a book, okay, just put my book because that's interesting. I'm interesting. Uh, you're not all that interesting. Your story isn't all that interesting. Just telling you the truth. I mean, to my ape nature, it's hard to manifest any fake affection. Just as I can't, just as I was argue, the life advocates really can't manufacture any real. Oh, I'm so sad that the poor Martians aren't here to enjoy this. They were killed in the non-existent clause. The Holocaust that exterminated them from ever existing, and so the never existing tragedy of their never existence. And oh, lament, lament, that they aren't playing golf on Mars. Fuck you. That any of the Martian books need to be written, that any of these human books need to be written, that any of the fish books need to be written, that any of this shit needs to be written. So that's a very bold statement, frankly. I'm saying that you pretty much feel the same way, frankly. You can lie and make up some crap that you give a fuck, but I really don't think you really do. That the book really is your book, and the rest of the books are just descriptions in your book. Your book can describe the other books and talk about the other books, but it really doesn't give a shit. They're all superfluous. They're like candlesticks. They're just sitting in the environment, but they're really not your story. They're not anything. They're just features. And the only thing that makes us capable of understanding it a little deeper is that we're able to empathize and we're able to recognize that other brains are doing just what your brain is, and it really is just as important. And so we can know that it's just important, but we can't really feel it. I mean, we have to fake it, and that sucks, frankly. But it is also a truth, and it's just also a context where, yes, I can understand that if somebody else was reading my book, they might find it incredibly unpleasant and boring and stupid and say, why the fuck am I reading this shit? It doesn't have any loud music in it. Fuck, what a stupid story. There's no obnoxiously loud music. I just don't get people. Just don't get them. All right, so anyway, that you should already have. There should be some indication of that in my previous endeavors to communicate with you, that I don't get you people. All right, anyway, let's play the video, see where it goes. Guess I'll jump ahead a little bit. Intros sort of suck. You're taking interest in somebody's life and their problems, and so I was talking about the little key pieces of advice that you would give. I mean, I remember my father wrote up a list just for posterity for us kids of 10 do's and don'ts. Don't get fat, don't do this, don't do these little things, just not to fuck up your life. And it's a little sterile and a little simplistic. Don't tie your shoelaces, your two shoes together. Don't take any wooden nickels. It was a little bit too obvious. But anyway, so in my endeavors to therapeutically help people psychologically, people in distress, people with problems with their family or problems with some other thing, I've attempted to convey to them that what they really have to understand is that the only part of this game you can control are your actions. They're the things that your brain is controlling, and you have to calculate those actions. You can't just reflexively react. You have to calculate and understand that you do know that because he called you a slut, if you call him a dickless dog fucker, it probably isn't going to fix things. It's probably not going to get you the apology you want, or it's not going to get you this animal moving the way you want it to. You have to, it's like a dog is attacking, and there's certain things you can do to make it worse, or there are things you can do to make it better. Now, not that I know any of that strategy, because frankly, I've just been lucky in terms of the times I've been attacked by dogs. They've missed the vital parts.
That's
But
great,
anyway,
Gary.
separate subject. I'm just saying there's a strategy to playing your life. And obviously, the best thing you can do is try to stop your emotional bullshit from getting in your way. And so, if you can spend a little time to just say, count to 10, uh, you know, recognize that this shit is going to smell more if I poke it. Okay. If I poke at the piece of shit, it will smell more. It won't go away. It won't get better. So try not to poke shit. So that was, that would be one of my top 10, my quick 10 list of things not to do. Don't
Don't
poke the
hope shit.
shit. All right. But obviously, in the context of understanding, I shouldn't have to do that my whole life. I shouldn't spend my whole life, uh, you know, being incapable of defending myself and doing the right thing, um, protecting my territory. But you just have to be pragmatic and know what fights to fight. And that's it's very difficult. I'm just saying I fail at it. So, but I'm just saying it is a good goal, is to monitor your reactivity and recognize that most of the time your impulses are too aggressive and you need to temper them.
I'm kind of a
So I
prick.
just thought that was good advice. Now, obviously, again, it's this catch. The catch is, it's just really hard to do it. So there's no point in giving people tools they can't use, and that's the problem with it. It's a little difficult to use the tool, but there's big payoffs if you can use it, because you'll gain two benefits. The world will react better, and you're going to be you're not going to have to clean up another mess. You're not going to have another piece of shit to poke at. All right. So anyway, so that's the theme here somewhere, is that there are these little pieces of stuff you can say to other people that I think can be useful. And then there's stuff you can talk about that's more profoundly meaningful in terms of, let's argue the truth. And the problem is these two things are incompatible, because arguing the truth is poking the shit. Unfortunately, that's how it turns out in response to what you're doing. So it's like you're playing chess or something, right? Right. So I metaphor to strategy. And that strategy is just another word for scheming, which isn't great. Who wants to scheme? Who wants to have to do all that crap? I mean, shouldn't the world be able to recognize, I shouldn't have to, it's like I shouldn't have to put a brand new quarter in the Coke machine. I should be able to put a 20-year-old quarter in and work just fine. Yeah, it's a little beat up, it's a little sloppy, but it's still a quarter. It should be that way. And instead, it's this idiotic way where I have to go to the bank every time I want to put a quarter in a machine to get a new quarter. I don't understand where other people want to invade your life, like the abortion people. Okay, so I'm just trying to put a context on this thing that I'm not defending, and I'm not supporting. I'm not supporting the Nazis because I say they had pretty uniforms. It's just, it gets too ridiculous that you have to do all this context before you can say something, because people just wish to be triggered. Trigger. I mean, it's a real concept. I mean, it sounds almost cliche and trivial now, but it's a real thing that happens. Everybody is just triggered the fuck out. Everybody's just a trigger waiting to go off. I mean, it's all, there's triggers everywhere. It's a real problem. But anyway, does it really matter? Now, who knows if it matters? That's the problem, right? You don't know which one of these little conventions you have to be obedient to is going to be important to people. So yeah, so I mean, there's billions of you, unfortunately, sadly and tragically, and you know, you're all unique little dirt flakes, and you know, each one is going to trigger a little differently. So yes, it is nice that you can put them in categories, and you can know. Oh, that statement, that sentence will trigger 1,000,000 people. Oh, that statement will trigger 10 million. You know, you can know. But yeah, who wants to do all this calculating? Oh, who am I going to trigger today? What loony group will come to get me? Really say anything about anything in a kind of honest way. Um, I mean, some subjects I've gotten away with, and what surprising. So I'm just talking about the fact that it's just this is stupid that we can't honestly interact. I mean, all we have is this language. We should use all the words, right? Take value in the fact that we have aggressive words and passive words and all that stuff, and we should use them for emphasis. Um, and we should be able to deal with all the subjects, and we should be able to do this in some sort of reasonable fashion instead of having people distort and pervert and exaggerate for their own little schemy purposes. The purpose isn't let's have the battlefield, let's have the battle of ideas. No, it ends up being a battle of can I threaten you in some way? It's just amazing. Sort of a bleak fact. It's just hanging over the head of anyone who's thinking at this moment, oh, I so much would love to have a child. Yeah, so all the sci-fi. There's no sci-fi picture that has any kind of realistic smell to it. It's anything but dystopic. Um, yeah, you don't win because you can't even describe winning. You can't even manufacture some notion of how everybody lives a charming life. Nobody has to throw the coal into the furnace. Nobody has to, everything is just charming and wonderful. Oh, bullshit. And the rest of it goes quite dystopic in the sense that we don't have sustainable systems. We create things that we do that just can't possibly work because you run out of the raw materials to do it in the future. All this kind of stuff, it just can't happen, and they just keep pretending it's all okay. It's not good. It's not a bubble verse. Yeah, it's a bubble verse, and things blow up. And you're just sentencing your kid to you know, it's not going to be better. It's going to be tragically dangerous. And yeah, and there's no pragmatic or good reason for somebody to be at all optimistic about the future. There's every sign that it's going to flood. Yeah. This isn't a house you buy. It's in a flood zone. Frankly, you don't build here. You don't put your 2 sticks down and then fart your eggs in this location, the present, because the future ain't going to treat your little chickies very well. They're both games we really can't do anything about, even when we know we're in a game, because part of playing the game is knowing you're in a game, and that's all part of your gameplay. That's just a little determinism shit. So as much as I'm saying the only thing you can control is you obviously aren't controlling you. You're just reacting. And again, you have to have these ideas in your head, and you didn't put them there. They got put there. So, you can't unwind all of that. So you're not going to do anything, but your brain can function with different levels of efficiency. That's a fact. And the fact is that you can recognize the kind of ideas that make you more efficient and the kind of ideas that make you less efficient. The kind of sensations you have that provoke you to do good things versus the sensations that provoke you to do bad things. Those you can recognize. That's part of your script. And once you become a more sophisticated human, your script becomes more sophisticated. You play a better game. Rope and hung from a tree. I mean, they just. Oh, so yeah, I was talking about how Louisiana could disappear tomorrow, and I'm not going to shed any tears. I'm not going to lie and say, "Oh, what a tragedy." Yeah, fuck that. No way. What do we lose? Anyway, I'm sort of joking, but I'm just saying,
Yeah,
I
fuck
can't
Louisiana.
manufacture some fake lie that I'm somehow incredibly interested in the lives of morons. I'm really not. Where you get to be the winner and you get to do this and you get to do that. And yeah, so we're all doing that. We're playing a single player game. It's just a fact. That's how we emotionally exist in our life. We're playing a single player game. And the rest of the crap is just to be shot or fucked. I shoot it or I fuck it. I shoot it, I fuck it. I shoot it, I fuck it. That's all. That's they ought to have a game called Shoot Fuck because that's all. That's all there is. There's nothing else going on. Come on, let's not lie about it. Shoot Fuck. That's what we're playing emotionally. All right, that's it. There's nothing else. Tranny culture. It's gotten. Oh yeah, so I did just point out that there's all of these are cultures. This isn't a genetic thing. This isn't philosophy. Isn't a genetic disorder. So it's always just a culture. All of these battles are between cultures. Okay, these are ideologies. These are meme engines, whatever you want to call the bandwagoners. These are bandwagons. It isn't black white. It's bandwagon black. Okay, and bandwagon white culture. You could argue black culture, white culture. Indian culture, Mexican culture, all this crap. And those things are not racial, those things are environmental. You become those things, you're not born those things. And the argument can be made that some of that becoming is a waste of brain. There's no point in becoming one of those things. Like a Muslim, it's not a good idea to maturate a human organism into a fanatic kook.
I mean, it's good for them.
Sidewalks or some other
Feel
thing.
better.
We can
I
all
was
have a
happier when I was
conversation about
Christian.
what enhances lives and what.
Now I'm just
Again, I'm not
angry
saying
and
that
sad.
all Islamic culture is shit. I mean, obviously, the thing against drinking and gambling is all good stuff, but it's also hypocrisy and borrowing money and all the rules are there to be broken. And you could say the same about some of the Christian ethics and certainly some of the Hebrewic, and I want to say it the right, Jewish traditions. But then some of them are ridiculous. Grade your life, and how low airplanes should fly. We can all have a conversation about it, just exactly how that should all work. So we should be able to talk about almost anything. And again, some of these things that we should be able to talk about are technical details, and nobody's going to get offended because it's just like there's no culture involved in you know like the I don't know. I mean, it's hard to imagine the culture that could manifest some sort of energy in a debate about how high airplanes fly, or something like that. But as soon as you start doing things like deciding how big airplane seats should be, well, now all of a sudden the fatty culture, has to protect their territory and say everybody else has to subsidize their fat ass. I mean, it's our problem that you have a fat ass. Maybe it's not our problem. Maybe it's your problem. Maybe we all shouldn't have to make the universe child safe because you have children. It's not my obligation, okay, on my own property. If I decide to have an alligator in my front yard, it's really not my problem that you can't keep your little kids on your own property and they fall into my alligator pit. I mean, you should be able to understand that your pets are your problem. This is your problem. It's not my problem. And it's not their problem. It's your problem. And then they also should know that in some cases, it's a social truth that if you don't have licensing and you don't have some control mechanism, then people make a bunch of babies that they can't take care of. And then society has to foot the bill. And maybe there should be some sense of responsibility there, some sense that, well, we should minimize this waste, because that's all it is waste. It's dangerous waste. You're just destroying and hurting human beings by allowing them to do this reckless, stupid thing. You know, like walk their pit bull without a leash or some kind of crap like that. Be negative things like having seizures or some other genetic right. So that's a separate subject, right? You can have some eugenics conversation about just the obvious stuff that, well, yeah, if we could breed
No, I love
people
my
to be immune
epileptic
to
kitten.
coronavirus, why not?
It's hilarious.
If we could breed them
Seize out.
okay, to not get cancer, well, yeah, that would make sense. I mean, if there actually was let's just say that we found in some Eastern European, or let me just pick something that can't be called a bias, mid-African tribe, and we find that their genetic code is completely immune to cancer. Wouldn't it be rational for the human race to say, boy, more humans should be that than the cancer-laden humans? It would just make sense. You'd say, yeah, that's a better working machine. It doesn't get cancer. I mean, it's as obvious as an engine, buying a car that averages 300,000 miles versus buying a car that averages 30,000 miles. This isn't complicated. That kind of discussion shouldn't even be frightening to anybody because, yeah, exactly. I mean, let's try to do that. But it is in the context of, as I point out in the video, my what do you call it? What do you call breed? Okay, my breed. Okay, the breed of human I am, blonde and blue eyes, are going to be eradicated. Okay, it's on the charts right now. The chart is, yeah, they were doing okay, and now by a percentage, they're
Big
heading
old
into annihilation. It's just fact. Yeah. And these things should be discussed and talked about. It shouldn't be a taboo subject to talk about it and say, well, is that a good or bad thing? I mean, there's no point in preserving people for no reason. I mean, if there's no function, but is there some value? So you can get into a whole genetic argument. It really wouldn't catastrophically hurt the human race's gene pool if we just wipe out a few of these, So what? There's no more of those people. So what? No harm. I mean, the more obvious case would be something like dwarfism. Now, I'm sure there's a bunch of dwarfs who say, hey, shit, this is fun being a dwarf. It's a great configuration. You can get into little tiny spaces. You don't need very big beds. It's very efficient. And then someone would argue, yeah, but it has all these, physical and medical downsides. And it's not like you have anything personal against dwarfs. You're just saying, really, is it important? Do we really need it? Does the future need it? Yeah. And I'm just saying, if you're really honest, no, the future doesn't need any of these books. Again, this library doesn't need to be built. These stories are all shit. No, they don't have hair for it. They've, got their due thing, and all right. So that was just talking about how, there's plenty of white people who are black people culturally. They've totally embraced black culture. They live in the slang of it and the behaviors of it and the the gestures of it and the whole dress of it, they're in it. Okay. um, and I'd argue, to me, it's just as I can't understand shit about it. Just can't get a single bit of it. None of it fits as, oh, that's an improvement in function. I can't see any place where it improves the human's function. I can't find it. I can't see it. I can't see how they're walking more efficiently, or they talk more efficiently, or they work more efficiently, or they. I can't see a single enhancement. It's just a fact. I can't see it. There's part of it is just so ugly when you see some of that degrade, and then you see the. I think I was talking about Asian culture now, and just the fact that it's kind of the Americanization, because the blending isn't a great blend. It's not a great combination. This much.
I'm done with this video. I don't know what I want to talk about, though. Oh. I'll put the title banner thing, though. What is this?
I'm making a response video on this love stuff again, but I'm not going to talk about love. Can't take it because throwing his 2 cents and against this straw man 2 cents. He's guilty of the same crime. He's pointing fingers at other people for, in terms of manipulating and playing with words. So this time he's compared to love to concepts like terror and fear, empathy, horror, which it has nothing to do with, in the sense that it is those words have so much more explicitity. The reactions of the human beings are consistent from human being to human being, very little irregularity. Where this idea of love is just bullshit. So this is, again, another conversation I keep having with the human race about how vocabulary is crap, and there are a lot of these words where we shouldn't even be using them. Okay, spontaneous, random, we can go down a list, lots of words that really don't have explicit enough reason, definition to be useful. And you can sort of see it in medicine, a lot of other things. There's some conditions, they're just syndromes, and they call them a disease. They'll say, like, schizophrenia, like it has one cause, and it doesn't. Like it's one kind of disease. No, it isn't. It's just a collection of symptoms that can be caused by lots of different things. So anyway, love is just a bogus word. On its face, it's just bogus. It just doesn't have any explicit definition. It's a mushy, wishy-washy, useless as a
It's kind of true. I mean,
communication. Where
technically
terror, horror,
speaking,
empathy, these are all very describable concepts.
I believe love to be obsession with respect. Other people have it otherwise.
So it's just a bogus comparison.
But then again, every person that I've described love as being an obsession plus respect, they've agreed.
To glorify some sort of vague idea of what love is, to hold something up as if it has magic powers, because we allow it to be a catch-all for anything good. And it's a lot of it's not good. I mean, so if you look at a lot of what love is, it's just lust. And then you can look at the possessive love, which is completely ungenerous, that has nothing to do with giving anything. It just has to do with using and taking and possessing and owning. So certainly hostile to any kind of glorifiable emotional state. Um, who wants the love of a homicidal, murderous mother, wife
Hey,
beating crazy
oh
fuck?
well, I wouldn't beat my wife,
Yeah,
but I'm
no,
homicidal.
thank you. Love isn't a good word in that context. Um, and again, the usury of this word, you know, it's just it's empty. It doesn't mean anything. Let's talk about our attachments. Let's talk about our addictions. Let's talk about um, what happens to us through the progression of our relationships to things, what attracts us and what repulses us, and what our ego demands, um, and what our dignity, our sense of comfort, our stability in the world demands. Sometimes you do things, you care about things just because you want resolution. You want to feel like everything's okay. So you want somebody else to be okay so you can feel okay. So again, it becomes a selfish emotion. Um, but why do this? Why play a game defending a word that has no definition? Why do this? This guy concedes in the video here, right about here somewhere. He basically says, okay, the word doesn't have a definition. And then he goes on talking about like it's a valid word. And what's the point of that? What is the point of saying the word has no definition and then defending its use? What the hell is wrong with my mouse? This is really irritating. It's dead. It really shouldn't be. These batteries should be fine. This is not good. Yeah. Can't turn the video. God, can't. I really can't win. Today's just not one of these days where you go, hey, I'm winning. No, I am not winning today. So what do? Oh, I hit the space bar.
Empathy when you don't really get the terrible state someone else is in. But it's also a lack of empathy when you don't really get the wonderful state that someone is in. But at the end of
I
the day,
get
as
them
I
both.
say,
I just
I
don't.
don't
I
think any of
think
us
it's
have any
fucking worth it.
information or have complete information to say categorically that any set of feelings don't exist.
Well, that's not the argument, right? I mean, My Misery Me explicitly said in the video that we have these classes of feelings, that we have emotional states. He's just claiming that you can't use this one word to define these emotional states. It's just bogus because they're very different emotional states for each person. What they put into what emotional states they put into this category of love is so divergent that the word is meaningless as communication. It has no meaning as a word to use in communication. You want to hold it to yourself. You want to play with it in your room. Well, go ahead. I'm just saying, as soon as you use it in communication, you're saying absolutely nothing. I mean, nothing. I mean, love means I love my mother. Love means some drunk going, I love you, man. I love you. Love means, some guy trying to get into a girl's pants, What is this is not a rational use word. Oh, come on, mouse.
That's, argument from ignorance, evidence of absence, or whatever, all kinds of objections to that. And I also think that it overvalues our ability to communicate our emotions to each other. Don't want to bring this up again. This horse has been flogged to death. But that's kind of the conclusion I drew from my exploration of antinatalism. You can't really debate an issue where even the most basic assumptions are not held in common. If two people.
Well, this is the truth. That's right. So why are you defending this word? So here you say that you don't accept antinatalism because you're recognizing there's no common ground for discussion. Well, I mean, it doesn't change anything. I mean, it doesn't change the rightness or wrongness in the end of procreation, or whether it is or is not ethical. You're just saying you don't measure ethics the same way. You think that what you feel like doing is something you're allowed to do, and I argue that no, you're obligated to impact the world in a constructive way, and that nothing constructive will come of your prodigy. They will suffer and die, and some of them will do it likely, some percentage of them will do it in some horrific way that will never be justified by whatever joys the others experience. And you either argue that or you don't argue that. You either say, oh no, the little walks in the sunsets and the little joy moments somehow make up for the horrors. And again, we can go back through these analogies, but if I'm saying that if I can give a parent the choice, some parent who's facing their 6-year-old kid having cancer, and I give them the choice to give up all the extravagance of their life and go to bread and water minimums. Not horrible, but nothing glorious ever again. They'll take it to spare their child that suffering. Do, 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 do.
Believe two completely irreconcilable things, and they both have reasons to believe them, then one can only assume that there's some fundamental difference there that sort of prevents them from finding enough common ground to compare ideas.
Yeah, we already found out what the fundamental difference is. You think that the Holocaust has been erased as a bad thing because it's over. Once it's over, it doesn't exist anymore. No one has to account for it. It's not part of the price paid. You really have no appreciation for suffering whatsoever. You just don't think it matters. It doesn't matter enough. And you think that somehow achieving some silly, idiotic goal like I won a gold medal in the Olympics is somehow a triumph. Sorry. yeah, I failed to see any logic.
Again, that's what I think happened in my exploration of antinatalism. I was running up against people whose...
Well, I think you were a preposterous explorer. Okay, I mean, I think you were walking backwards with a blindfold on, going, no, 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 no. So yeah, that kind of exploration, you're probably not going to find anything. Okay, you're not going to get anywhere. You're likely just to bang into things, and that's all you did. You walked through the the logic shop, with your senses turned off by your refusal to accept a single argument, to hear the arguments even, let alone respond to them.
life experiences, or whose opinions, or whose metaphysical journey had taken them to places um, that that are completely unmapped territory for me. So if someone has drawn this conclusion, I have no means of saying that this person is wrong for being an antinatalist any more than I have any reason to say that they're right, because at the end of the day, I can't even get my head into where they are. But isn't that the point of this, though?
Well, really, I mean, it's not that difficult. The thought experiments are pretty simple. You say, well, look, there's a Frankenstein. He's making little happy kids with pink balloons that go out the front door, and he's making little miserable Frankensteins that are popping out the back door. The Frankensteins are horribly miserable. The little pink girl chasing balloony things are comfortable in their little blissful moments here and there, but they're not accomplishing anything. Okay, they're just satisfying needs that don't need to exist. They're not saving the universe. They're not they're not preventing something's suffering. They're not doing anything that needs doing. And you have this price being paid. That's just not complicated.
Ultimately, we can't walk around in someone else's shoes. I'm often fascinated by people whose ideas repel me, but I suppose it's just I'm fascinated by something that I find completely mysterious or incomprehensible to me.
Yeah, well, whatever. You say incomprehensible. Like I said, what is so incomprehensible about value utilitarianism? I mean, just recognizing that the value is in the sentient experience. I mean, that doesn't sound like that's so very hard to imagine, and that all you're trying to do is create an economy of satisfaction. That we gain satisfaction, we can get it. I can be satisfied just because of my diet and because of my habits. One little tiny treat, a little bag of potato chips or something that's like a banquet or something. It all depends on your position. And so if we can generate our satisfaction at a minimum cost, well, it just makes rational sense to do that rather than have the extravagant queen who just steals the pee under the 43 mattresses kind of problem, right? Why buy the 43 mattresses if you don't need to? Why create a human being that needs 43 mattresses? I mean, you can't understand just simplistic, obvious value math. The problem is that you think there's something else happening here. You think there's something else besides a replicating molecule, 4 billion years of carnage wars to develop tool equipped gladiators to fight in a war that has absolutely no purpose. I mean, we're fighting for the sake of fighting to create better gladiators, and that's it. There's nothing else happening here now. You think there is, but you won't tell us what that little magic something else is. You just think it's there. You just say, I think it's out there. So I'm the one who's left not understanding. You're giving me nothing to understand. You're giving me no roadmap to the little, you're just saying, it's out there. Off the paper over there is a big, huge pile of purpose and value. No, not good enough.
What motivates somebody to stay angry at the world for 30 years? I've seen people that are like that. One of my best friends is like that. I don't know why he's like that. I don't think I'll ever understand it. But based on how he's run his life, I can only assume that he has his reasons for feeling the way he feels.
I guess he'd probably be able to articulate that to you, but why don't you say right to his face that you think he's just been angry at the world for 30 years for no reason, or he's staying that way for not a good enough reason. I don't, what does that even mean? What exactly does this angry at the world thing look like? You mean he's hostile to the grotesque sloppiness of how a human race is living? He finds it offensive and disgusting and insufficiently efficient? I mean, you can just keep arguing that people are somehow supposed to just acquiesce to whatever exists to get their whatever out of their life and then die. And that somehow they don't have any mission statement that says, do I want this to continue? Do I want things to continue to be subjected to this mediocrity? I mean, anybody who believes it's mediocre sort of has an obligation to do something about the mediocrity, or they're just sentencing the next sucker to have to endure it. I mean, you can't get that logic. I mean, people sort of do need to be kind of mad at the world, or the world ain't going to get any better.
I feel the way I feel because of reasons about the world, about the universe, about life itself, about love, about depression, about agony, and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, all that sort of thing. Again, so you just threw a bunch of words together, and you already conceded some of these words don't have any meaning. So what's the point of that? What's the point of attempting communication if you're going to overtly say a word doesn't have any explicit or rational definition, a common definition, and yet you're just going to use it? What's the point of it?
And I presume that other people have their reasons. None of us have any information or have sufficient information with which to conclude that certain feelings do not exist.
Well, again, so you say none of us have any reasons, none of us have any more knowledge, none of us have any more perspective. I mean, that's just bullshit. All opinions are not the same. Some are more informed. And I think it's just completely bogus for you to concede the biggest problem with this word is the fact that it's a word. We shouldn't be trying to describe with one word all of the mechanisms of attachment that people are capable of being motivated by. There's lots of mechanisms that attach people to things. Okay, and there's no point in putting them in one category and calling them love. That's just
pretty goddamn stupid. Some of them are just bigotry, some of them are just racism, some of them are speciesism, some of them are built out of incredibly negative things. I mean, some people love things not because they like it, it's because they hate everything else. I mean, it's not even that the thing earned their appreciation, it's just everything else sucks.
They didn't exist, we wouldn't even be able to talk about them.
Oh, shit. If they didn't exist, we wouldn't be able to talk about them. So if we have a bogus word not describing a real thing like spontaneous, spontaneous now does exist because we have the word and the word says it exists, and so therefore it's just self-justifying. So anything that has a word automatically has to exist. I mean, that again, what is that? That's not logical. Okay, the point being made here is this idea of this fluffy, culturally controlled wild card word of love is used to always take a bad hand or bad this or bad that, and they just smear some love butter on it. Okay, and it's just bullshit. It's just a lie and a canard that this word gets to and it's like even the life word for most people. It's this fluff, you just write it, and you could almost write it in fluffy cloud text, right? Just get a font, fluffy cloud font. Life, it's little fluffy, happy. Okay, because that's what people have been conditioned, and that's destroys the clarity, the reasonableness, the accuracy, the validity of the word is destroyed once the definition isn't coherent to the word. And love doesn't have a coherent definition. It just has some sort of heart bullshit. It's just made out of bullshit. It's made out of Christmas cards and birthday cards, insincerities all over the fucking place. I mean, it's just an obnoxious concept.
A physical fact. Once somebody fails as an intellectual to get that simple argument, and then on top of all the other arguments that exist, determinism is just, yes, it's a physical fact. They're not going to change that the universe is made of shit, and the shit all has a history. And the fact is, it has to obey these really strict laws, and there's just no room for anything free. I mean, some assholes contrive some reason to believe there's some sort of randomness to it, but randomness wouldn't make your will better. A randomness would make it stupid. So what's the point? That's certainly not a defense. I just mean that, they can't get this argument, then yeah, they're obviously not thinking very good. So obviously he doesn't understand what antinatalism is as a subject. He clearly doesn't understand that whatever might be in the statement about a statement about anti-life, it's anti-life for good reasons. The good reasons are is there's something to be afraid of. Torture is scary. It's something you should be inhibited in creating. You shouldn't just recklessly say, I don't care how much of it I make. So obviously it's a real subject, whether there's too much of that, whether or not it is possible to take enough of it out of or extract enough of it from the environment to say that it's okay. It's a real thing. It's not a fake thing. People have good reason to be afraid of this making of life thing because it has the danger of creating too much torture. Duh. And it comes nowhere close to dealing with that obvious subject, and in the context of our social responsibility to be against torture, it doesn't really make any argument saying, no, we're doing it just fine. Torture works just, we have just the right amount. Something like that. We clearly don't have anywhere near too much. That's his argument, clearly. that somehow you got to be really crazy to think there's too much torture. Too much torture? Nah, it's not too much. It's just, we're way far away from any kind of, blood footprint problem. Yeah, whatever. So anyway, so as a response to this, a really long pile of crap he wrote, and I deal with a tiny percentage of it. Um, but at least that's more fair than what he does to Benatar and every other person advocating for any form of an antinatalist philosophy. He doesn't really quote any of them. He just pigeonholes us all as the people who just want to kill people. That's not what we want. It's not the goal, and it's not the means advocated by 99% of the people who are categorized as being anti-procreation. So it's just a big fat fib. So it's just part of the fake news cycle. The intellectuals wasting all of our time with a bunch of fucking gibberish that's not really on the subject. So we'll play some of this, and that's what we do. Probably have to adjust the volume a little. Let's see. And such. 5, I mean, that just popped into my mind, the Aliens movie. Okay, so I brought up the reference to the Aliens movie because the Ripley thing it's a pretty good, the one Resurrection, where they make a new Ripley, and it even gets to the robot argument, gets to a lot of arguments in a way, because she's half, she's got some alien blood in her, the new version, and it's just this remake of a psychology that's now made out of those two individuals, the alien instincts versus and the Ripley instincts, which is interesting part too. But the real part that's interesting is the idea that you get to see the genesis of the making of such a monstrosity, and one of the victims is in the kill me state, because it's in such a horrible physical condition, and she does the right thing and kills the victim. So in a way, so a very clear antinatal type moment of recognizing what kind of monsters you can make. And my simple addition to that argument would be is that we're also monstrous. Yes, we're not disabled and stuck in a bed, but we're still monsters. And there's no there's no glory in our storytelling, our narratives. This isn't some wonderful accomplishment to have existed, and it's all way too expensive. Blah blah blah. Having living things makes it possible to create something called torture. Yes, it can happen. Right. So non-existence doesn't have any negatives overtly. There's nothing you can say is broken. You're just saying that somehow it needs to be fixed in the sense that it needs to have this extra stuff. It needs to do this extra thing. And so it's kind of like saying, a car has a perfect utility, but the car has to make toast, or the car has to wash windows, or the car has to do all these other things. Why does it need to do with these other things? So, and again, so this argument that somehow thing needs to be conscious, or somehow it's not maximizing its utility as being a piece of matter in the universe. Somehow every piece of matter is somehow not good because it doesn't possess a capacity to be tortured. That it's not driven and motivated by a bunch of psychological crap. No, of course it's fine. It doesn't need to be fixed. And it's only when you create a human being, you create something that is in deficit, something that does need, something that has to go into the world and try to force the world to rub it some way that makes it feel good. It turns the world into